Welcome back to Just Jocelyn. I'm your host, Jocelyn, and my guest is Julie Smith. We are here for part two. As you know, usually my guests and I do tend to touch on an awful lot of subjects, but there is that much going on in this town, in this state, in the United States, and it affects all of us, whether you realize it or not. So we're bringing these events, these issues, these court cases, this wording that is being tossed around, like we're supposed to be lawyers or we're supposed to be faithful little, court clerks, and not to make fun of court clerks because they're amazing, but we're supposed to bend our knee and do as we're told. And as I said before, we are the public servant. They are our public servants, and we are their boss. And somehow that translation's gotten lost. So to just kind of finish up on the first half of the show, the lawfare. So tell me the last part, because it absolutely epitomizes that word. So you, in very, very good faith, went and had certified mail delivered, went through the post office as you were supposed to, but you were not granted the recount, which I find disgusting, over little lawfare, little facts that really tell me about it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. So yes, I did, as I mentioned before, I did it through certified mail in a good faith, timely fashion. And what Attorney Bolton did was he found that loophole that Alderman Dow did not receive notice within 24 hours prior to the next meeting of the Board of Aldermen. But here's what's disgusting. If you live in a town, or if you're running for state office, you got these rules like, if you want a recount, you get a recount. Mm-hmm. You might have to pay for it if you did not lose by a narrow margin.
Right.
But you would think that if you're running for alderman, that you would get those same conditions.
Correct.
Wrong. The Board of Aldermen meets and decides whether your request for recount is worthy of being granted. And I signed the paperwork. It was time-stamped. I did the certified mail. And I was home in my living room watching on public access TV the meeting of the Board of Aldermen that Tuesday after the election, after Veterans Day. And Attorney Bolton said, referring to me, well, the disappointed candidate did not meet the criteria. So we need to have a motion to reject this request.
So let me stick my foot in my mouth. Then what's the point of any rules? If in the end, they're going to decide yay or nay.
Correct. To your thought. But on top of it all, I know the court is where one seeks relief, and we're gonna talk about Paula's case. But I thought I'd preemptively seek relief for future people after me, and the House election law is kind of a clown show, so I went to Senator Gray. He is the election law chair. And I wrote him a long email with links and documents, step by step.
Oh, evidence?
Oh, yeah, evidence.
Wow.
And he's an electrical engineer, and you know those engineers.
Oh, yeah.
And so I mentioned Paula's situation and my own. And I said, talk to Kevin, because he ran for this office 4 years ago, earlier. And so I said, please, Senator Gray, file a bill that moves city recounts to the archives. And I went on to talk about how the national recount is a clown show. There's no pairing people up at the little magnifiers.
It's extremely political. It's extremely one-sided. And so let's talk about Paula's case.
Okay.
So give you the upfront, and then you can go for it. So Paula's been in and out of court for, what are we talking, almost a year? Are we up to a year yet?
It was November. Last November was the city election. Okay. So she filed probably a motion to expedite.
Correct.
Following the recount, also in November, and got her day in court in December.
Beginning of December, very early. So All right, we're talking 6, 7 months then. Somehow it feels way longer. But she's been filing and filing and filing. And we've all been meeting together and putting our 2 cents in and working together to help her with these filings, which are not easy because none of us are lawyers. We're all pro se. We all have a little bit of knowledge, so we all come together to help each other. So it's been an absolute cluster. It has really been an embarrassment, tantamount to what you just described. We have a council, we have a city, we have elected public officials, public servants that don't know their place or their job and are just beating down the people and making them subservient, and we're just not going to take it anymore. So we got to the end of the road and everything was not being answered. There was no redress of grievance. There is no redress of grievance in our courts, and the legislative branch, it's fallen out of favor. They don't want to deal with it. Not you're right. We'll be dealing with that later. But Paula said, I want an appeal. I want to do an appeal. And so a couple of us have been working together and put it all together, and it was filed this afternoon. And I want to tell you why. So the actual name of this, State of New Hampshire, it's going to the State of New Hampshire Supreme Court, Paula Johnson versus Regan, is that correct? Lamphere and Daniel Healy and the City of Nashua, New Hampshire Board of Aldermen.
School clerk, city clerk, and Board of Aldermen.
Got you. Okay. So plaintiff Paula Johnson, pro se, meaning herself, not a lawyer, notice of appeal under New Hampshire, so that's resolution, SUP, I'm not sure what that is. I don't pretend to be a lawyer and I don't even play one on TV. Count 7 with expedited consideration. Okay.
Expedited, good.
Because we need to move. Like we talked about lawfare, dragging it out because they can. Why is she doing this? Well, the city of Nashua is leading the way in this state and showing other New Hampshire towns, cities, whatever you want to call them, how to take over school districts, the SAU, Superintendent's Administrative Units, and to take away the rights of the SAU, i.e., which is the state. The SAU, the school districts, are the state. Frank Edelblut. So why? Why? Because the school districts, the SAU, oversee the purse. Well, what does the city and town and the aldermen all do? They oversee the operations of the city. Not the school, not the SAU, and certainly not the budget. But they pretend that they do. They allege that they do. They act like they do. And they've been pushing on the SAUs and the schools and doing this. The city wants to take over the purse. They spout that they're allowed to. They scream and yell that that is their job. Well, again, public servant, you need to go back to this. And the judges need to pay attention to we the people, and you need to follow the Constitution. This is filed today. I don't have all the details. I just got it before I walked in, so I'm going to read through it. It's only a couple of pages. I did send it to Julie so she can look through it, but it was filed today in the New Hampshire Supreme Court. And for those of you that forgot, and I'm not being rude, but we have a Supreme Court in every state. You have a Supreme Court in the federal. You have a legislative branch in every state and a legislative branch in the federal government. You have an executive branch in the state, it's the governor, and you have an executive branch in the federal, and that's the president. They mimic. Mirror image, for those of you who know. So she's gone to the Supreme Court of New Hampshire. My case and my friend Wayne's case went to the Supreme Court of New Hampshire. And I have other breaking news that the Court of Appeals in Boston has accepted my case and Wayne Saya's case against the Secretary of State and the allowing of undeclareds to vote in a primary, not a full election, a primary. Here we go again. This was our lawsuit in January, and first Wednesday of June. You have to change your party affiliation by that date. Well, undeclareds are still allowed to go to the primary, federal primary, I might add, in September, change to whatever party they want to be, and then change back 20 seconds after they voted. It's not what it says in state law. There's actually two laws, and one conflicts with the other, but I'm not going to go there. But that's two breaking news for you, Nashua, that just happened today. So talk to me about Paula's case. You and I went to court with her, and we're looking at? I kind of overlaid what her final appeal is about.
You mean her original?
Yes, the recount and
so as the Granite Rock management requested of me to report, there were 4 points, 4 grievances, or 4 items of harm done to Paula, and one of them being that the city violated its charter, that the school is styled, past tense of the verb to style, styled separately. It's autonomous from the city operations.
Correct.
And it's understood that you mentioned purse strings. So the Board of Aldermen set the budget for the school, but the school manages it.
Correct.
And part of its operations are the recount that you mentioned, and you mentioned that Clerk Lamphere should have been the person in charge, not Clerk Healy, the city clerk. So that was item number 1. And item number 2 was the chain of custody of how ballots were stored. And there's a great video, a security video that Allison Dyer spliced of raw footage of Attorney Bolton having a meltdown, exploding on Paula. You took that?
I have it too.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
I was right up front for the explosion.
So viewers can refer to that. It is her right. She even says so. I am a candidate. I get to ask about it. It was the same thing as when Mr. Bean, not English Mr. Bean, our Mr. Bean, was saying to Scanlon during Lou Gargiulo's recount, how come that label or that tape or whatever? So she's just
doing the same thing, because
same thing.
We're doing our due diligence and making sure that every box is taped correctly, that every box is the same, that the label is on it. It's got 3 signatures. We've all been trained on it. It's a big, big book, but somehow we're the ones that know all the rules and regulations and follow them.
Yep. So that was item number 2. And item number 3, I think, was the Equal Protection Clause, which had to do with notification. So if the highest scoring loser wants a recount against the lowest scoring winner, Paula Johnson, there's procedure and proper notice.
Oh, is it like a 24-hour, 48-hour thing and written? Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that. And an opportunity to bring your friends. I mean, and that's another thing. I mentioned Senator Gray earlier in my argument of why a city recount should be moved to the archives, because when you go upstairs into the City Hall auditorium, there's no structure to it. So you have the teachers union and all their friends, and you have these tables and all the people counting. They're not impartial. State reps, ward clerks, one person's counting, the other person's writing.
All from one party.
Exactly.
And they all had signed up on a list that was not given to Paula Johnson, so that equal 50% could be half and half. Equal and fair. That did not happen.
Correct. And there were like 20 tables. And when you look at the security camera, it's kind of like watching Nesson replays of sports. You have the ceiling camera and the right camera and the left camera. So there's no method to the madness of like, okay, at 12:58 p.m., you got this camera, not that camera. So I'm trying to follow like who's sitting where. And if you got 2 people watching the counting out aloud and the recording, and only one of them is affiliated with Paula,
Yep.
you can't look with one eye at the tally sheet and then the
Correct.
ballot, and it's a
It was.
kangaroo clown show.
It was so, because I was there. There was a bunch of us there, and I was there with Tom and Al and Daniel and Wayne. You were there. Paula was there. There were a couple other ladies.
I wasn't there. I watched footage
you watched
of it.
it?
Yep.
Oh, okay. What was the name of the lady? There was several people there, and then I called Marilyn Todd and said, we need more hands on deck. We all signed up on the list. We were told, put your name on the list, get a sticker. We put stickers with our names on there to show that, there would be one of each at every table, so it was fair and balanced. And we literally had the people that were signed up, PTA, school board, whatever they were, whoever these people were that signed up, and Paula was never told or given the equal opportunity, came up and ripped the sticker. They touched me, they touched us, and ripped the sticker off our bodies, screaming in our faces. You didn't sign up. It's 24 hours. You haven't been checked out. I don't know how many state recounts I've done, how many town recounts I've done, and blocked. In addition, there was another attorney from Nashua running around.
Mr. Barry, I think it was.
Yeah.
Friend of the ruling class.
And would interfere and thank goodness the moderator that came from Derry, she didn't put up with any stuff. And she was over there, and I'm like, he doesn't have the right to say that. She's like, you're absolutely right, you don't. But we had people interfering right, left, and center. It was really disgusting.
The whole blocking thing, it reminds me of 4 years ago in Detroit and all these other places where they put up a piece of plywood so poll watchers can't do their job.
Yeah.
It's dystopian.
It really is. So that's Paula's case. You have the update on it. So, we all need to know these bits and pieces, and shows like this are where you learn about it. And why does it matter? Lest I repeat myself again, they are our public servants. They work for us. We are the employers. They are the employees. Did you ever wonder why, 95% of these legislators are lawyers? Last time I checked, there's a book. I'm taking 2 law classes, and one is Maxims of Law. It's a wonderful book. Print it out. And you have the founding documents. Everything you need to know about law is in here as it pertains to God's law, foundational law, common law. And the one question we need to be asking every one of them is, by what authority? Show me where you get the authority. And it ain't because you're a lawyer, and it ain't because you're the mayor, and it isn't because you're a selectman. It's an equal opportunity to all of you. I'm not dissing on anybody. By what authority? Because you don't. You don't. And it's a sad, sad day. So, with the last 7-8 minutes that we have, do you want to do sort of a wash list, a laundry list of what's going on in Concord, what we should be looking for? I mean, Kevin Landrigan.
Let's talk about Kevin Landrigan. That's more of a media thing, so it's...
Yeah. Lighten it up a bit.
I actually like Kevin Landrigan. He's a pleasant guy.
Well, he actually shows up.
He shows up, and when he says he's going to send an email and this and that. But I'm very disappointed in him and Adam Sexton both because the Senate was in session yesterday all day, and there were a lot of bills that interests a variety of people. So I understand school restrooms and sports and all that, but school mask bill, HB 1093.
Why is that coming up again?
Well, it made it out of the Senate, but it was not on the 6 o'clock news. Kevin Landrigan didn't tweet it. Adam Sexton didn't tweet it. That's why I took this image from, this is the camera, right? From nh.gov, and I plugged in HB 1093, and it has the step-by-step developments. Yep. So it is ready for the corner office. Now, Melissa Blasick informed me 2 years ago at this time for the predecessor to this bill that got vetoed.
Correct.
It has to be enrolled. There's a bunch of
Terminology, bureaucratic.
admin stuff. But interestingly, if you go to His Excellency's page under government, it says 12 bills were signed into law on May 14, and then another 8 on May 20. So if 20 bills have already been signed into law, I don't know when they came out of either the House or the Senate. But, that tells you the wheels can turn as fast as
they want them to.
When I say they, it could be the governor, it could be the staff, it could whoever. I'm just saying they. But anyways,
the administration.
Yes. So this bill, the school mask bill, it came out of the Senate. That's an amazing, it was a great day. And why wasn't Kevin Landrigan tweeting right away? School mask bill comes out of the Senate.
Yeah.
Or Adam Sexton.
Silence.
And that was yesterday. So I thought, okay, well, maybe they're busy people and, other things are going on.
They're recovering from Joey B's really exciting visit.
And their clubhouse is right there near the stairs. I drop in and say hi sometimes. And so this morning I went again. I looked and crickets, neither of them mentioned it. And then, so what I thought was, I'll do an internet search. I know there's algorithms, like if you look at washing machines at Home Depot and then suddenly, you your social
from
media.
Every other place.
Okay. and so I know Google's part of the cabal, but, like, okay, I'm going to do a Google search. I'm just going to enter HB 1093 and then click on it.
Yeah.
And so the results I get, there were a couple of legiscan.com. Okay, fair enough. And then there were HB 1093s in other states. But then when you look at the results, you have, it says all, then it says videos, shopping, news, so you can filter.
Okay.
So I clicked on news.
Nothing.
I mean, it had from many elections ago or out of state, but nothing about yesterday in the Senate here in New Hampshire. So, yeah, Google's being Google, but what that tells me is WMUR doesn't care to report to its viewers that the school mask bill, a House bill, came out of the Senate and is ready for the governor. So that really...
That's really big. And it's really concerning, very concerning that it's not being reported on.
Yeah.
Are we too stupid to know about this or something? What about this one? Blows my mind away. SB 418, smackdown of the Senate, passed the DWI bill. SB 418 moved to pass. It failed. It would have doubled the penalty for those who refused to take a blood alcohol test. So being 911 for several years, I have a real problem, and I've been married to a cop for 34 years. I have other family members that are in various agencies, have been. Refusing to take a blood alcohol test is not an admission of guilt. Correct. It is not an admission of intoxication.
Correct.
But the DMV has deemed that it is, and you will be punished. So if you're pulled over for whatever reason, and it could be for lights out, and then all of a sudden, somebody smells alcohol, which could be diabetic ketoacidosis. It can be cough medicine. It can be a whole host of different things. There are medications that make your breath smell fruity and alcoholic, even if you're not. But they, I want you to test. Well, what test do you want me to do? Well, I want you to test for your safety and others. That's not explaining anything to me. It is the officer's choice to pick one of those tests, and many of them don't. They just say test. I'm sorry. If you want a breathalyzer, say breathalyzer. If you want a blood test, say blood test. If you want a urine test, say urine test. And oh, by the way, you have 24 hours to go have an independent testing facility do one of those and bring it back. So, and let me tell you, the average person for a DUI, whether you were drunk or not, and all lawyers, here's the catch, all lawyers tell you never blow on the breathalyzer. If it's raining, if it's damp, if it's drizzly, they don't work. So why does every lawyer tell you never, ever, ever do the breathalyzer? But the minute that you say no to the tests, the DMV takes your license for 6 months. So does that mean that they're going to double the penalty for refusing to test, which is not an admission of guilt, so that you can take it for a year, and then the city or the town gets a second bite of the apple for up to 2 years? Plus, you have to pay all the fines and penalties. Plus, you have to take, now they passed in January, counseling classes at $80 a pop. And they decide on a 3-week licensing certificate whether you need help and you have substance abuse. But look at the poor people on the street that really do have substance abuse and are getting what? $12,000 to $15,000 for the average person who just says, no, I don't want to test because they're not clear. I've had patients where they've been asked to do the breathalyzer test and they have COPD. They literally cannot blow into it, so they'd fail. That's an automatic, I forget what it is, automatic 2 years, automatic 1 year, I don't know, from the DMV. Some people are deathly afraid of needles. Some people, I don't know, everybody pees, so I don't see that one as a problem, but
I have to
double it?
I have to say that this bill was not on my radar, no pun intended, until, it got attention from Kevin Landrigan. And I have no reason to disagree with anything you said. You've actually added a lot to what I would have said myself. It's a guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah,
that's
instead
my
of innocent until innocent till proven guilty.
I had a
And where's the due process?
Exactly. And to a few of the points you made with the following ordeal that results in such a thing. I had a coworker who got a DUI, and she lived in Massachusetts and was working with me in Nashua. And interestingly, the registries weren't talking to each other at the time, as we learned from that motorcycle accident up north.
Up north,
okay.
Correct.
So she's driving in Massachusetts, but she's persona non grata in New Hampshire because the DUI happened in New Hampshire. So I was picking her up in Tingsboro and driving her to the rest of the way to work. And that lasted for 10 months. But during that time, she would give me these updates, and she hired a very expensive specialist. Mr. Moses was her lawyer, and she said that he talked all about what you just said. Oh, it needs to be calibrated, and I want to see records. Right to know 91A kind of thing, I want to see when's the last time that was calibrated, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, refusing. A person that knows, or a person that's not too many sheets to the wind, would be smart to refuse. And I see the point of this bill to make it more unpleasant to refuse.
It's pretty darn unpleasant right now. And especially for people that are not intoxicated. We're never intoxicated. And it was based on, I smell, I feel, I think. Hearsay. And we learned that from Judge Temple and Attorney Hilliard, with Lori Ortolano representing herself. Objection, Your Honor. That's hearsay. She feels, she thinks, she smells. That's what's going on. Wow. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming in. We didn't quite get to as much as we wanted, so you know what? We need to do this another day.
Sure.
We were going to go into the 91As and the right to knows. So promise to all my people out there, we're going to have Julie back very, very soon, and we're going to talk about the right to know 91As, that you have the right to request from your government, from your selectmen, from your city, public paper, which is actually almost everything. And not to have it redacted to the point that you're looking at plain black. So we're going to come back with some examples for you, and I will give the producer pictures of those so he can put them up as we're talking, and we can develop this into another show, because we just had so much to talk about, and I want to focus in on the 91As and the right to knows, because those are big. It is your right to know. So this was your we're not lawyers and we don't pretend to be one, but we do read books and we do go to court and we ask the questions that aren't getting any answers for. So I want to thank you so much for doing all of this, writing all these articles, keeping us up to date, especially me. And love to have you back any other time.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right, we're going to say goodbye with our Memorial Day glasses, everybody. So be very careful. Yes, they're very, very, I love them.
Martha Fuller Clark.
Woohoo! So have a fabulous Memorial Day. Be safe. Designated drivers, because it's not worth it because they're out of control. See you next time. Have a great day.